Welcome to Connect, Curate, Create, where we're on a journey through the arts and creative industries. I'm your host, Dr. Tim Butcher. If you're anything like me, you love learning about art and creativity. In each episode, I ask artists and creatives how they navigate life, work, and more besides. They generously share their stories and offer invaluable insights that you and I can put into action. As the author of Creative Work Beyond Precarity, I blend my mission to give artists a fair go with my academic smarts to ask the questions that draw out lessons we can all learn from.
I don't know why I'm doing this. But I'm enjoying sitting down and doing it. It's like, I just have to do it. Like this one was taking a little bit of time. And I go, I don't have time, but I'm making time for that. And it is bringing me some internal enjoyment or not relaxation. It's a relaxation, but contentment, yes. I'd say. And that's important.
In this episode, I talk with Laura Purcell, a multidisciplinary artist based in Hobart, Tasmania. Laura contemplates why her creative inquiries are so deeply embodied and completely unique, yet so relatable. I found myself in total agreement with Laura throughout the interview. Laura shares compelling insights into how she weaves together making and materialities with theatre and performance to produce work that spans artistic disciplines. How learning to perform brings with it the confidence to share our art with the world. And why it's so important to find stillness, to have freedom to create. Be sure to also check out the show notes for highlights and links that you can use to shape your own journey. If you learned something from this episode, follow us on your favourite podcast app and tell your friends about Connect, Curate, Create. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here in Hobart. First interview in Hobart. It's taken almost to the end of season 2 to get here, but I'm thrilled. The outlook here is gorgeous. It's a beautiful day overlooking the bay. And I'm here with Laura Purcell, who has invited me to her studio. Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Tim. Thanks very much for having me.
And I mean, I just love visiting people's studios. So listeners, if you have a studio space where you want someone to come and be absolutely delighted, please let me know, because I would love to come and see. Laura, this is an incredible space. There's so much going on. And so it just fills me with questions. So you're a multidisciplinary artist. And what I see is multidisciplinary things. But I suppose the one thing that strikes me about all these materials around here, and there's sewing machines and just so much inspiration to be had. This it feels like a space where you are making. We'll just leave it at that. So what is it you're doing in this space?
Making or trying to make, finding the time to make. I am making without judgment. Currently, that is my process. Mm-hmm. So, I have a concept, and I'm practicing. Maybe trying too hard to make without judgment and be surprised by what comes out. And so that's just been evolving for many years, but I do get surprised, and sometimes I have to really not be too judgmental about why and what, and try and work it out.
You're not asking any questions, you're just seeing what comes out the other end of the process?
Yeah, at the beginning of a particular inquiry, if it's for a particular show, I'll research and ask questions and find things that inspire me, and create a mood board of some description, or but yeah, I research high and wide, and then it seems like too much information is there, but it's just this huge amount of wonderful fodder, and then things just land.
Yeah.
And then if they land, and then I have conversations with myself while I'm making or sewing or sitting. So yeah, and as you can see, I love fabrics.
Yes.
There's quite a bit of them around. So I think the colour and texture and form really inspire me. And working against, or not against, but just working with the material and how that wants to evolve.
Yeah, right.
Basically.
Yeah. When I stopped myself earlier when I used the word making and then let you describe it, and because what it feels like to me is like a fashion designer's studio. It's the way it feels to me, and we talked about this before the interview. And so, is that a source of inspiration for you?
I really love fashion and clothes and shoes, and I think that comes from my grandmother and mother. My grandmother was always making clothes for my mum, or adjusting things for my mum, and she'd make curtains. I mean, back in the earlier days, everything was by hand, and my grandfather was a boot repair and shoemaker, which is that sewing machine behind you.
Oh,
that
wow.
was his.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had that really strong influence, and I do remember asking my grandmother if she regretted anything. She said, she wanted to be a fashion designer. So that was curious too. But I love, showed you all my Vogues, and I love fashion, and I think, that adorning the body. So I started out as, I loved art all the time, but then I went into theatre, and so then that really was able to explore. I was able to explore costume and adorning the body to be able to create character and communicate, a visual communication that way. So that's why I like. Yeah, there's just something there that adorning the body is telling a story, and actually. That's why I really need to go deeper into the no theatre, because the costumes have such detailed stories behind each of the colour and the textures.
Okay.
As well. But anyway, I digress. But
well, no. So for those of us like me who don't know, what is no theatre?
No theatre is like over 600 years old, a form of theatre in Japan that came from China, and it was, but then it started out as theatre performance, but very basic costumes, and then it evolved because it became popular with royalty and the government, and so basically then the costumes became more and more elaborate. So, and then the costumes were telling more of a story as well.
And this is what you were telling me. You have some posters on your fridge.
Yeah, I didn't get to go and see it, but I saw the theatre, and yeah.
So for regular listeners will know, I've just returned from Japan through 2 or 3 weeks ago, and last week, speaking to Francis, and Francis is planning a trip to Japan later this year. Stefan the week before had already booked a trip, and we were talking about Japan, and we were talking about various things in that regard. And Rowan the week before, who has strong connections with Japan. So there's something going on here. But I mean, I'll try not to bang on about Japan, but I think that's something interesting about. There's something cultural in the materials that I use the phrase adorn the body. Yeah. So the things we wear, there's consideration in that.
There's huge consideration. I would say, so my grandparents were from Poland and Russia, and there's traditional costume there. And so, I mean, I grew up, surrounded, with wonderful friends who are from the Polish community, and I, would see them in their Polish folkwear and see them dancing, and, so, and there's that connection, to culture. There's a connection to, generational longevity. There's something really, really important about that I don't think we necessarily get all the time here in Australia.
No,
I mean, we are multicultural,
but I think in a consumer age, these are the things values that are still there. They're still just as strong, but they're not as prominent, perhaps. I mean, I suppose you talked about your grandmother. Your grandmother would have been making clothes and mending clothes, not just maybe because she could make them better than she could buy, but also because there was a need to make them as well, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah. Like finding the nicest patterns out there, or making by seeing as well. And I think I really like just working from what I see and maybe drawing out a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've got all these patterns here that I could go, boxes of patterns, but I always find that, working with something straight from the fabric is so much more fun. But I also, if I try to make something that is a regular piece of clothing, I really spend a lot more time and probably more angst creating that than, say, a costume where I can have loosen the boundaries.
Yeah. So again, I just love all these old patterns, but they're inspiration for you more than anything.
Yeah. Pretty much.
There's a certain aesthetic to them that I guess. Yeah, you just need to you probably don't even need to pull them out to actually begin doing the work that you're doing.
No, and it's funny because I go through them and I've pulled them out, and I'll look at them. I'll look at these beautiful drawings.
Yeah.
I'll pull it out and I go, well, and then I think about the fabric that would go with it. And some people are really great, but to do that, and I don't know, somehow it just doesn't gel. But to have them here,
yeah,
is it? And I think also that the graphics and the way it's all been put together inspires me too.
Yes.
So then that becomes the whole package.
Yeah.
So, and I think that also comes into how I get inspired for my marketing as well.
Okay.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So look, there's a lot to.
I don't know. Are you ready for this, Tim?
Your practice. No, we're not going to go there yet. Hold on. Oh. I didn't mention that. So we met less than a year ago, and we had a great chat in one of the local arts organisations, but then immediately after, I went back to Launceston, and you had some work in a group show at Sawtooth, and for me, I was really quite captivated by the work you showed, the materiality. I guess that's what I'm really interested in at the moment, is just how whilst. It wasn't necessarily so. There wasn't any bodies, so it wasn't adorning the body. But there was the way you had made this work. It was really immersive. It's sort of I'm doing this with I've got my hands up above my head for audio listeners, and it just sort of seemed to be. I don't know, just drawing me in. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I love that.
But so you could probably describe that work a lot better. But for people to understand just what these materialities are.
It's interesting because I am drawn to non-traditional materials. So I like industrial materials.
Yeah.
I like finding something, and maybe that's because I like finding something that's not material, because I've got a lot of nice material that I don't do anything with because it's too nice.
Yeah.
It's too nice. I've got boxes of it. I'm gonna, yeah. It's more than meets the eye in this room. That's for sure.
Yeah, I have print paper like that.
Oh.
Yeah. Boxes of photographic print paper that I will never expose to the light.
Oh, really?
It's weird, yeah, but
no,
yeah,
I understand.
We're something that we should each unpack for ourselves another time.
But it's funny because I've used a rubber dinghy for a costume before, and I've turned that into a prawn-like costume, and that's just manipulating. And I've this particular material that you're talking about was wrapped up in some barriers for an event, so one of those stand-up barriers, and that was back at a place I worked before, and so I unpacked those. I said I'll take that packaging. And, there's something about, I think I like the strength and the longevity of it. Mm-hmm. And so it's more like, I guess it was like an insulated flashing, which is what you'd probably put on your walls. And to insulate inside your walls. So it's silver. Yeah. But it had a nice texture about it too. And because it had like a thin layer of foam, there was a structure about it. Mm-hmm. I'm also interested in things being structurally sound, based from my previous exhibition, so where do I go with that? But basically, this is when I sewed it together, it was able to hold its form. I was able to shrink it down, pull it back out, and it was able to do many different things. Gabe Comerford was a performer, a dancer who animated the costume as well, which was absolutely delightful. So delightful to see that his inquiry really expanded the way that this piece could be read or enjoyed. And so the materiality is really important for me. That's a big word to say.
We can come back to that.
Yeah.
I'm sad I missed Gabe performing. I saw the installation after the opening. So it's
there'll be footage of it coming out.
Oh, will there?
Oh yeah, I've still got to give it to Karen. Sorry, Karen, if you're listening. But Karen is an amazing curator. Can I just say?
Okay.
She's an amazing woman and curator. Seriously.
Karen Hall.
Dr. Karen Hall. Shout out to Karen, because she gentle in provocation, but very clear, knows what she wants, and she's very interesting, and there's that clarity.
So did Karen give you a brief?
She did. It needed to be warm, like being able to adorn the body. It needed to be animated. It needed, to be strong and to be, and that's why I just kept following that material, and I'd had that material for a few years actually.
Okay.
So sometimes there are things in the studio that I'll have that I'll bring out or I'll find. So that's the joy of hoarding. Storing, sorry, did I say that? And then, or I might go and hunt things down and see what's at the tip shop or... Yeah.
Tip shops are great.
Love tip shop. Mm-hmm. Resource shop, sorry.
Hobart has the best tip shop.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't shout about that because...
don't go there. You won't like it. You won't like it. It's just... There's a few of them around that's...
Oh, yeah.
Have you... Yeah.
Now, so... the origins of of your practice, you spoke about your grandmother and your mother and strong influence. And when we first met, you told me a little story about art school.
Did I?
Yeah.
What did I say?
Well, it was about, I think and you'll correct me if I'm wrong. So I think it was your final show, or you had a show.
Yeah.
And and you needed to a patron, or you invented an alter ego. So so there's the materiality, but there's also the performativity around your work as well, right?
Yes.
So that's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, I see. Okay, great.
So,
I was like, whoa, where we go? No. I get it.
Maybe I got the context wrong.
Oh, so during my studies, so I come from a theatre background.
Yeah.
I worked in improvisational theatre, physical theatre. I really explored all the areas within a non-traditional space, coming from a traditional space, and then I ended up in puppetry and worked with Terrapin for 7 years, and toured locally and internationally. So having that performative background has been like I'd make my own work, I'd work for other people, I'd really enjoyed making new works for people and myself. And then I think by the end of sort of the Terrapin performances, I wanted to make my own things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wanted to explore my own inquiry, and I wasn't sure what it was. And again, thinking about a process. So I ended up going to art school, which I'd always wanted to go there. And I think I was invited to while I was there, I was invited to, someone had to drop out of a performative role for like a roving gig for Mona. And I jumped in and I created this character, Rhonda Vu. It was loosely based, I think, on someone else's character. It just had to be a glamorous socialite.
Right.
And so then I ended up calling her Rhonda Vu. And just evolved her a bit, and then would go through the art school. And that's right, I got involved in the sculpture club at the art school, and I think I nominated Rhonda to be president, la presidente, and we'd go around to studios and sell cakes and teas, and so she had like a bit of a 1950s socialite vibe. And it was also a really great opportunity to not be myself, because I was finding it really, like, I've always been used to being in character, or being behind an object, or not being me, I guess. So it's, so basically she gave me more confidence to sort of do things. So anyway, she was very popular. She would open art shows, and there was a really great gig she got to do. It was Rhonda Vu at the Cottage, the music. So at the Kelly Street, there's a Salamanca Art Centre has an artist residency, a cottage, and so they opened that up, and they had a performer in each of the different bedrooms. And, we had people come through, and Rhonda was the hostess for that. So she's a great hostess. And then ended up making a show. And so this show that I told you about, that's right.
Yep.
So Rhonda Vu, I curated a couple of shows, Rhonda Vu with the crew. But this one was at the In-Flight Gallery, and there were some other artists. We collaborated, and I showed them some performative techniques to create their own alter egos. And so Rhonda, in essence, is my, let's say, patron or benefactor. And so I used to say, I work really hard for this woman who doesn't really do much for me. I'm doing more for her. And so I ended up, creating this. We had this wonderful opening night where we all were our own benefactors and parading around as our own wonderful socialites, we created our own magazine catalogue with articles about ourselves and,
Fabulous.
and then the artists, us as well, also had work showing in the space.
Yeah.
So there was a really nice layering of that. But it was also just a moment of recognition for artists. It's really important to have recognition and on a wider scale. And I think that's why I've been drawn to your work and inquiry.
Okay. Yeah, it can be hard for some of us to stand next to our work and talk about it. And so to have an alter ego do that for us, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And the performative, I hadn't appreciated how extensive your performance background was before going to art school. And so, terrapin and puppetry, that's all brand new information to me.
Surprise.
So where did all that come from? Yeah.
So I did a theatre degree after I left college.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to go to art school. I wanted to go to art school, but I skipped the interview. I was too scared to go.
Right.
There was something, about that. But
Should have sent Rhonda.
I should have sent Rhonda. I know. Where was she then? But I think what I needed was maybe I just needed some, I believe I needed some basic techniques to sort of work out how I needed to be in the world in a way. So I felt like I was very shy, but I don't know if I'm shy, but I just needed some performative techniques, which a lot of people need, just to be able to stand in front of people or to be able to, walk confidently down the street,
Absolutely.
Or so I just basically did that, and then was hooked on creating these new works. So at theatre school, we were encouraged to direct works. I just wanted to make my own, and I wanted to create these abstract things, and so I pushed for that and was able to make my own sort of movement-based, some abstract text-based work.
Yeah.
Not knowing what the hell I was making in a way, like and that's, I think, a lot. My practice has been, I'm driven, I'm curious. What is this? What is this? And then expanding on that. Oh, okay, that's that. And I'll nut it out. Okay, that's the acting technique there. This is how you do it. This is how, observation, learn it, embody it, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Which I envy artists who are really able to really go deeper into the same, into a discipline, like really, really go deeper. But I seem to cross different areas. So, but it's all the same thing, really.
Yeah. I look. So for listeners who aren't aware, this is our first videoed podcast.
This premiere.
This is the premiere.
Oh.
And so if you are listening on audio and you would like to find out about some of these objects that that we're surrounded with now, and because I'm just about to ask a question, what I would say is check out the video. But some of these objects, it speaks to that. To me, I'm seeing how shapes, they're emerging, and they're growing. There's something quite organic about. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
It's like you'll follow. These shapes are leading somewhere and curving back in on themselves, or looping around, or whatever. But I find it really interesting that, like, I want to follow where you're going.
Well, there's looping, there's a lot of binding, wrapping.
I see that. Yeah,
a lot of stitching, and quite small stitching. I don't know why. Like, I'll do loose, big stitching, but then to think like, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is, but I'm enjoying sitting down and doing it. It's like, I just have to do it. I just have to do it. Like this one was taking a little bit of time. And I go, I don't have time, but I'm making time for that. And it is bringing me like some internal enjoyment or not relaxation. It's a relaxation, but contentment.
Yes,
I'd say, and that's important. Like when I did my solo show maybe almost 2 years ago, and I was making for that, and I hadn't really sat down and made, like I was going hardcore for quite a few months, and then there was this moment where I had this burst, this release just in my heart. I don't know where it came from, but it was just this warm feeling. And it was like, it wasn't like a high. It was just, I don't know, but I want to try and find that feeling again. So I think that's why. But I feel like that's this contentment, this, okay, my body's releasing, my body's, So I think when I make without judgment, and I feel more whole. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but there is a turning back in on self. There's a reflection back on self, and a more of a and I listen to a lot of podcasts and particular podcasts about mind over matter, and it's really being more mindful, and I have to be more mindful than ever really now. It's especially when there's just, I don't know, there's just a whole world out there, and I just want to be connected to it. So,
Okay.
Yeah. I guess I'm raising vibration, trying to be connected.
And so through your practice, you're raising those vibrations. So when do you make? I mean, what got me thinking? As you're speaking, it reminds me of different things. Like I used to have colleagues who would sit in meetings and knit. They probably still do, and I would fiddle with pen and paper, and I can't sit still. I tinker. I'm always having to do something with my hands unless I'm engaged in a really, really interesting conversation like this. But so that leads me to this question of the way you described your practice. Is it about making time for that specifically, or is it something you can do as you're doing other things in your day?
It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think now when I make these, I'm calling these my props, and I don't know, there's this huge desire to make them. And so that's to be mindful and to stop and just be in the one space for one lot, and to be able to do that for an extended period of time. So, more than an hour and longer. Like I think I've enjoyed doing that over a weekend, but I also have to be mindful of my joints and make sure you don't overdo it because you don't want to wear out everything. Done that,
Okay.
Yeah. The last show I was like, I couldn't move my thumbs for a while afterwards. Like I felt, I'm like, okay, just need to be mindful.
Yep.
But anyway, that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect is that I can't sit still. I'm getting better at it, but this is a good opportunity. But I just will start in one spot and then I'll flick over to another area. I'll go and move on to something else. I'll drop that. I'll pick that up and do that. So I've got stations. So over time, my process is develop stations where I can, when I lose interest, go to the next one, do a bit of that, and whatever sustains my interest long enough. But also, when I've got a deadline, that's a different story as well. But at the moment I have a bit of luxury of time, not much. So it has been enjoyable to understand that process of where I enjoy those moments of focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And meditating before I work is really, I never thought I'd hear myself say that, but Yeah, meditation, it's the go.
Yeah.
It's really good. 15 minutes, sit on the floor, listen to a guided meditation or just do it on your own. But it's really helpful to just, like, especially if you've come from somewhere else and I'm feeling a bit scatty, and then I can just sit, ground myself and then focus. That's been really, really interesting process as well of what works.
That's a red hot tip.
Yeah, it does help.
Yeah, I've never connected the two. And I've actually let my meditation practice slide, but I never thought of it. Oh, in fact, no, hang on a minute. There was a time when I would only click the shutter on my camera after a deep breath, or I would have to take a breath and I played with that for a while, and it was sort of like, finding stillness in that very discrete moment.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're finding you need to find the stillness before you can start to make.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I might walk in and get stuck into it. I mean, you today coming really was great motivation. I started tidying something, went, oh, what if I do this, or what if I do that? And, so, there was some. That helps too.
Yeah.
Deadlines are great.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yesterday I saw you and you said, oh, I've got to tidy the studio. I said, don't tidy the studio. Please don't tidy the studio.
You just needed a little walkway, that's all.
Okay, I see. Yeah, no, it's like I say, it just being here inspires me. You have referred to a few times busyness in life, and I suppose the short time we've sort of known each other, but really it's only sort of online exchanges, Instagram or something, really. And but I suppose what strikes me about you, and not just your multidisciplinarity as a practice, but you do so much in and around the arts, and how your arts practice perhaps feeds into your freelance work as well. And so, that's what intrigues me also, is about asking you about when you make time to make.
Oh, I didn't answer that question.
Well, you did. You just took us in a different place to where but that's the beauty of this. So it's sort of this is the follow-up question.
Oh yeah.
So really, what I'm, I think, how do you balance it all? How do you? So what? I mean, last time I saw you in person, other than yesterday, was TEDx Hobart, and you were one of the photographers.
Yeah.
And you were busy.
Yeah.
And you said hi, and I was like, oh wow, Laura, hi. And but I'll see you later. I'm off. And so so I suppose who you are as an artist plays into the things that you do as a freelancer. Would I be right?
Yeah. I am very busy. I've always been busy. I don't think being busy is great.
Okay.
But maybe using the word busy used to be like, oh, so like I'm just really busy. I can't deal with that right now, or But I'm active. Balance, I don't know what that is.
I see.
A woman over 45 does not know what balance is, especially the body doesn't know what balance is with the hormones going everywhere.
I see.
So basically, every day is new. And every day there's, I am definitely practicing more stillness, as I've mentioned. So that's important. And that has helped, let's say, the balancing act. And that's what it is. It's a big balancing, juggling act of all the bits and pieces. Bits and pieces to ensure that I have income, bits and pieces to, continue the gut feeling of the drive of I need to make this, I need to create something, then there's a lot of things that I do. And there's also the needing to reach out to people and help. And there's people who are reaching out who need help through my services. I honestly don't have an answer for how I'm going to do it all, because I do sometimes get overwhelmed. And I would be lying if I said I didn't get overwhelmed and I had it all under control. Like, no way. Like, I have got way too much on. But all my dear, dear close friends would be like, oh, Laura, you've always been like that. And I go, yeah, I know. And I don't know how to stop it. So I'm not going to stop it. But I just go with it and try not to get overwhelmed. I honestly don't know. But what I do know is that, I enjoy taking photos, and I have a great working and personal relationship with Pete Mellows. So that's been, and so there, that collaboration is, that just is energising. And I think that's what I'm after, to be energised.
Yes.
And I really believe so deeply in the arts, and that everyone has creativity, is able to be creative, and that drives me to be able to participate in all different areas. So, I did an artist residency at Launceston College a couple of years ago, and I was able to re-examine and explore my processes. And so I've also been, Women's Health Tasmania on the board, helping them with their marketing and events, and providing guidance or suggestions with the other board members. And that was a fantastic 5 years there, being able to impart knowledge, and everything always comes from an art space. Like, I've worked in marketing and communications, brand marketing and communications, for over 13 years now, formally. I haven't had specific training. I've learned as I've gone on the job and from my own inquiries. Again, another project, another way of entering into a space. But it's always the creative inquiry that comes into and adds and lifts a project. Yeah. It's the thinking, the problem solving, the thinking from outside the edges, and bringing in some new ideas, and depending on the clientele or the groups of people I get to work with, it depends which way we go. I've been able to produce big photo shoots, large-scale photo shoots with production company, and be able to have a vision and share that vision, get the client's needs met, and amplify that more.
Yes.
Anyway, I've gone on another tangent. But
you talked about theatre school and how you wanted to make abstract things, and you sort of create. You got the ability to do that. Your desire to do it was, and so that seems to shine through in everything you're telling me. It really is you follow a desire to make things that are perhaps unusual or different, or not necessarily think in linear ways, and we've always done it like this, but perhaps there's another way of doing it.
Yes, yeah. It's look, the outcome doesn't have to be abstract and weird.
No,
but it's about how you unpack before you produce anything. how are you exploring that story? How are you exploring the messages? How are you exploring what it looks like? Who's receiving it? All of that background, coming from it from different angles. What if? Yeah.
And problem solving.
Problem solving.
Something that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, or try something. Or, you know, I use the word experiment, and that can be quite a frightening word, but experiment doesn't have to be that way. It's just testing.
Yeah.
You know, which in the marketing sector, that's pretty much that sort of language being used, but it kind of all crosses over. It just feels like the same thing but different.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's there was something you said before and I was like, yes, that's the next question. And it's gone. It's gone. But I think so I mean, for context, yeah. So you do many things, and I've just found what it was. But I think something that it's like, whilst it may not feel balanced, you talked about sort of juggling different things and so on in your life. There's nothing, and you use this word as well, weird. There's nothing weird about the way you approach your life and work and practice and how it all intersects. It's just how you do it.
Just how I do it. Yeah.
But there'll be thousands of other people out there who are doing exactly the same, you know, doing also almost being convinced by the world that what they're doing is weird, but actually there's nothing weird about what they're doing.
Yeah, that's right. I try to fit in, or I have tried to fit in, or tried to belong, and now I'm comfortable just do what I do. And however people see me, they see me however way. There's no problem. I mean, yeah.
That's I can relate to that 110%. I think there's something about Gen X, about how we were educated to conform to a world that suddenly changed in front of our eyes.
Oh, yes.
And so the last 40 years the world has become this place that we weren't brought, you know, we weren't brought up to know this world. I won't go any further into that. No,
but I love that. And I think there's been something in me to go, keep up. You'll get left behind. Mm-hmm. This is not what I signed up for, but try and keep up as best you can while meeting those core needs.
I interviewed a few years ago for a different project, for my Tales of Precarity project. I interviewed my now friend Matt Martin, who he talked about how he's sort of Gen Y, and he talked about how when he was a kid, a teenager, and comes from the same part of the world as me, and but he had, they had digicams, and it was much easier to make video, and it was much easier, digital photography was becoming a thing. But for me, 10 years before that, all those things that I was doing, just like he was doing, you couldn't document and capture. And I think, you and I were talking about magazines before. I learned about the wider world from that small country village through the magazines from the newsagent, and so I think, but subsequent generations experience the world very differently and grow up with all the uncertainties and all the scariness of it, and it's no less scary to many people, but I just think that there is something about how, whilst many of us in Gen X do embrace, you talked about marketing and social media. We get it. We get the world, but actually we weren't trained for it.
Yeah.
We weren't programmed for this
Yeah.
world. So it's like we're reverse engineering it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funnily enough, I was in an antique store in Japan in Hikone, I think it was. But there was for $25, I should have bought it really, but 2,500 yen, a black phone, old black phone. Bakelite phone with the dial. And I said, excuse me for one moment, and I just had to dial a few numbers and just absorb the sound.
Yeah.
It was that was a special moment.
I can hear that. And I can feel the tension in the dial. Yes. This is what people do. If you've never done this, please go to your local tip shop, go to your local antique shop, find a phone and put your finger in the and there's a tension to it.
Yes.
We're back to materiality again.
Back to materiality.
And industrial materiality.
Interesting.
Because it would have been made, it would have been made of materials that would have, the materials of the day, it wasn't about lightweight but there was durability and very functional aesthetic.
Functional, yes.
So let's bring it back to your practice, and so you talked about how you like to use those sorts of materials in your work, and where does that lead to? You've already alluded to the fact that you don't know where you're going with it per se, but where you have what are you inquiring into right now?
So right now, I'm inquiring into. Well, actually, I will go back. I kind of know where I want to go with it. I'm making things to be able to put on me and photograph, and then that becomes a finished work. For example, so there's two things going on. There's work that I want to producing for an exhibition at the Devonport Regional Gallery later in the year. Then there's also the inquiry of commercialising my work, but I'm not sure if that's where I want to go. But if I'm exhibiting, do I commercialise it? Or at least give an opportunity for people to purchase my work? What's the easiest way to do that? Well, the things that I make aren't necessarily durable, not necessarily, it's not a metal sculpture, it's not a ceramic, it's, I don't know who will find value in my work. But and so then there's that image up there where I've been able to photograph myself and turn that into a two-dimensional work or a visual representation of a moment in time, of an ephemeral moment. And again, yes, performance and making and is also very ephemeral. Yep. So, and this work won't last for 100 years, and that disappoints me too. So so there's a lot of inquiry and questioning about where does this go?
Okay.
And I'm really only, I would say, whilst I've had a 20 plus year practice, I am quite a young artist. In the sense of with this material, or at least, delivering myself out to the world and being seen or understood in a particular way.
That's a Gen X thing as well.
Is it a Gen? Oh.
Yeah, don't worry. I have the same trouble.
I'll stick with that then.
But no, what I'm hearing. So I guess what you're alluding to is that you're really just at the start of an inquiry, and you're willing to follow it wherever it takes you.
I think I'm comfortable in this place. And when I say comfortable, I'm comfortably uncomfortable in this space.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's uncomfortable. Like, but I'm okay to be in this uncomfortable space of not knowing, and not look, I don't know. This is my don't know. I don't know.
Hey, how about this for an idea? Before the interview, we've probably spent an hour talking about Japan because we happened to be there at the same time and completely different ends of the country, and didn't encounter each other. But we each encountered Yayoi's work.
Yes.
And for me, it was unexpected, unplanned. I didn't expect it to happen, and it moved me. And you said it that your experience of it moved you too. But I suppose what I have learned through experiencing that work is I now want to understand the artist. I want to and what I'm learning is very much that, particularly the dot work, came very much have come more recently as part of the practice, and how multidisciplinary Yayoi's work has been over the years, and so for me, it would be trite to just talk about age, but it's like there's no limit to what you can do and how you can take it, and what you do. So if you're comfortable in the space you're in right now, making what you're making, that surely speaks to you'll keep going with it, and it will lead you somewhere.
Yeah.
But you just don't. It's not about the destination, right?
No, it can't be. It can't be about the destination. And when you do think of the destination, it blocks. It blocks going forward. And I think that's the beauty of and the tragedy of the pandemic, where everything stopped. It actually released me from the way I thought about art and the art world and what I should be doing. You need to be doing this. You need to. So there's been a flip of the script, so to speak, to think about the way I do things differently, but also to be able to say, well, this is how I make the money for my rent. This is how, as my bread and butter, and then this is how I satisfy that creativity. But then now I'm attempting through freelance practice to merge both, and to find a unique language that the everyday person can tap into as well. So I don't know if I've answered your question again. I think you asked these really great questions, and but also I've listened. There's a Great Women Artists podcast. Have you not listened to that one?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's a good one. Oh, she's incredible. The host.
I'll jump on that one.
Do jump on. But that's been one example of hearing about many different female identifying artists or artists who the trajectory has either changed or not, or it's just evolved. And, listening to their personal circumstances and how they have adapted their practice related to marriage, children, caring, work, abilities, physical abilities. So, you know what? There are no rules. There are no ways to go about it. So I think I feel pleasant saying it now. I feel pleasantly released from those shackles. So, and I think, again, to be able to be curious and find that enjoyment in what I'm doing, because then what's the point? Because I used to be like a little bit tortured back in the early days. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's so boring. and that's the other thing too. I don't think across the board, we think artists need to be tortured in order to create work. They don't. They don't. And I don't want to be. I think it limits how artists are seen.
Yes.
And then how artists can be presented.
It's the world's greatest lie.
It's the world's greatest lie, exactly.
And yet, I mean, this is what I wrote about in my book and yet that is what the artist, the idea of artistic freedom is what's valorized throughout society. And the consequence is we all seek some sort of freedom in our lives now, and but it's scary, and it drives a sense of individuality. We need to stand out, we need to be different, and really, as you say, it's that sensibility that means we start to beat ourselves up with your word, torture, and it's like there's this real joy in just being an artist. There's real joy and pleasure from just practicing, from just making something. I think you talked about, if we, to sort of wrap up, to go back to your grandmother, and she probably really loved to make clothes. It wasn't just function, surely.
Oh yeah, no, she liked it, and she dressed well. I mean, we've saved a lot of her clothes. She only died a few years back, so we still have a lot of her clothes to go through. I think we kept most of them, that's our hoarding nature in our family. I would say, much to my sister's dismay, but she had a very nice taste and loved pattern and colour. And one of the interesting things is one of the blocks I had getting back into the studio, or actually just making, I had a block a few years ago, and I did a hypnosis with my doctor, and that went back into where was that place that I felt like safe and happy, and it was that visualization of me sitting next to my grandmother and sewing.
That's wonderful.
And making things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Clearly, such a strong influence on who you are.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think that's the thing is just for an arts practice to find the joy in making art, and to understand why we do that, and not overthink it, not try too hard.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, I do want to make nice work. I do want people to love it, and so there is an element of care there.
Yeah.
But I also am aware of the invisible labour behind the work that is being created, which is again the message behind my work. Whether it's obvious or not, it doesn't even matter. But that's the understanding of there is an invisibility of what goes into work being produced by artists in particular, by women in society, carers, people who help make the world go round in good ways. So in that sense, I don't know where I was going with that, but
well, invisible labour, effective labour, all it's never properly valued, and yet we valorise this idea of creative freedom, but to be able to have that creative freedom, it takes a lot of work to reach that point where you can sit down and meditate, ready to begin practicing.
Oh, even to find that, to find that time, to get to that spot.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I have a lot more privileges than a lot of people do. So in some ways of being able to have a space a generous space to work in. And I have a supportive family. So yeah. But
No,
that makes me sound like they're not financially supporting me. Just letting you know that I do all that myself, and that's it's challenging.
Yeah. Look, that's the thing. Is there is joy to be had in making, but the work to get there can be tough.
Yeah.
But once you're there, you make quite beautiful work. And so you said you've got a show coming up December in Devonport Regional Gallery.
Yes, mid-December it opens.
Yeah.
So that's
just in time for Christmas.
Just in time for Christmas, for the summer holidays in Devonport to come by and see the show. And I'm influenced by the coastline for this particular show. Tides, tidal, that meeting place of the tides coming and going. So there is an organic thematic, but I was also inspired by the Moon Sisters. There's the three sisters who they have the artefacts from this moon family in the Devonport Regional Gallery, and I wanted to explore that more, and I got to see some beautiful dresses like that one up there.
Right.
I had an exhibition of that recently, a couple of years ago. So it's pairing just different ideas together, being influenced ways into connecting with the community, tapping into the location, and then being able to bring my experiences into that and pull all that together.
Wonderful. I will definitely be there.
Oh, can you come?
Yeah, of course.
I'll send you an invite.
Thank you very much, Laura, and thank you so much for your time. Just before we wrap up, where else can people find you?
Oh, good question. You can find me, Laura Purcell. I've got so many different URLs. I'm a URL hoarder.
I see.
But you can find me laurapurcell.au.
Okay.
Yep.
Insta?
Yeah. Well, I'm...
That's all right. We don't need to do that.
No, you can find me, Laura Purcell. There's Laura Purcell Artist and there's Purcell Laura. So for someone who is really good at marketing, just don't look at my own stuff right now.
Isn't that it's a bit of a busman's holiday for if you do a lot of social marketing for other people, then your own channels are always going to suffer.
They are suffering at the moment. I've got I had a really good photo shoot, brand photo shoot, and I still trying to push that out and those ideas and my brand out. So just jump on, make friends with me, and I'll follow you. I'll make friends with you, and
great stuff. Well, just as we did, and you've been incredibly generous, not just with your time here today, but I came from a meeting with someone you suggested we might get on, and it was just look, and that's not the only thing. So this whole trip to Hobart has been so delightful, and it's thanks to you, Laura.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thank you, Tim. That's so lovely. Yeah, happy to assist.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Connect, Curate, Create. I hope you found inspiration and insights that you can apply to your own creative work. For highlights and links, check out the show notes, and be sure to follow us on your favourite podcast player so you never miss an episode. Tune in next time as I continue to explore life and work in the arts.